is up, YouTubers? It's HoppyHunter89, and the voices in my head coming at you from the Duelist Den. And today I'm going to be profiling my updated Kozmo deck build. This is the deck that I built for my fiance. She really enjoys playing this deck. This deck can go off rather easily, and it's one of those all-around good decks that has seen play since its inception, and that should really say something about the deck itself. But I hope this profile inspires you to build your own Kozmo deck, and I really hope you enjoy this profile. So let's go ahead and get into it. For the main board, we run 2 Kozmo Tin Cans. Tin Can is one of the search cards in this deck, as it can allow you to get cards you need to your hand. It is a bit risky, but it is completely worth it. I run 2 copies of Strawman in this build. Strawman allows you to special summon your banished Kozmos. You usually want to use this to go into one of your higher level Kozmos. That way you can use its ability from the graveyard. I run 3 copies of Farm Girl. This is the only Kozmo monster I run at 3, merely because it is the primary searcher of the deck, as when it deals damage to your opponent, you can search out any Kozmo monster from your deck. I run 2 copies of Wicked Witch. The last build was only running 1, and I didn't really see it enough, plus I need another target for Allure of Darkness. But Wicked Witch can save your tail on a lot of occasions, as it can't be destroyed once you use its effect. I run 2 copies of Kozmo Dark Lady. Dark Lady comes in major handy, as it does allow you to negate monster card effects. So having Dark Lady in here can save you against decks such as ABCs. It can negate card effects such as Firewall Dragon. It can stop a lot of different things. Run 2 Slip Riders. You got to have that back row hate in the deck. 2 copies of Landwalker. Landwalker is primarily in here for an Allure of Darkness target, but it can also save other Kozmo monsters you have on the field that you don't really want to be destroyed. I run 2 copies of Forerunner. I run a Dark Destroyer and 2 copies of Dark Eclipsers, which can stop trap effects. I also run 3 copies of Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries. I feel that Cherries works best in Kozmos. It works better in Kozmos than it does in pretty much any other deck, I feel, as Kozmos don't use the extra deck, like, ever. So you can pretty much just stack your extra deck with nothing but targets for your Cherries. For the spell lineup, I run 2 copies of Allure of Darkness. I run a Reasoning, 2 Terraformings, an Emergency Teleport, 2 Pot of Acquisitiveness. This card is really underrated in this deck, but it can recycle things such as Dark Destroyer, which is a one-of. That way you can use its effect again. This does essentially, though, give you 2 more copies of Dark Destroyer if you have it banished. I also run 2 copies of Shared Ride, just because you really want to get that draw power in this deck, and a lot of decks do a lot of searching. I run 1 copy of Monarch Storm 4th. This can really save you if you're in a bind. If you have nothing but high-level Kozmos in your hand, you can use this to tribute off your opponent's monsters to bring that Kozmo out to the field. I run 3 copies of Kozmo Town and 3 copies of Cosmojo. For the extra deck, like I said, this deck build runs nothing in the extra deck but targets for Cherries. So obviously we're going to run the 1 ABC Dragon Buster, because ABCs are still a thing and you really want to shut them down. Another deck that is a problem is Cyber Dragons, and we run Cyber Dragon Infinity and Cyber Dragon Seeger to shut them down. Crusadias are something else that have been popping up all over the place. So we run an Equimax, a Regulix, and a Magius to shut Crusadias down. Sky Strikers, yet another thing that are an issue. So you have to run the Hayate, the Shizuki, and the Kagari to shut them down. We also run 4 Nightmare cards. I run Nightmare Mermaid, just because if you get Iblied, it can really affect the deck, so you want to have some way to get that Ibli off the field. And then, of course, we run Nightmare Phoenix, Nightmare Cerberus, and Nightmare Goblin to shut down the Nightmare Lockout. And then just a couple other random things. We have a Firewall and a Boil Sword in here. These are, in my opinion, the 2 most powerful Link monsters in the game right now. So being able to shut your opponent out of using these is really handy as well. Well, that's it for this deck, you guys. I hope you enjoyed the profile. I hope you got some ideas on how to build your Kozmo deck out of this profile. As always, guys, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel and follow all the social media accounts, which are linked down in the description box below, so you can stay up to date with everything happening here at the Duelist Den. And until next time, this is Harpy89 and the voices in my head just want to say Yu-Gi-Oh! Is not just a game, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is life.